This man's story is one of resilience, redemption, and radical purpose, pouring his heart into serving the sick and the hungry and the oppressed.
When you see somebody on the street really struggling, give them a few bucks. That would be my first takeaway from the initial jump.
Or acting as if we're trying to reach a certain goal or destination, but the whole point of life is that it never ends.
First step, like if you're feeling lost, it's like completely okay. You have to be a fighter. You have to be a mental, spiritual warrior and try things.
Share these conversations and they just ooze a smile. They hold a level of joy when they have no right or reason to. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the Made for More show. I'm your host, Tal, and I want to dive right in today and actually just ask you guys, what's been your favorite episode so far? I really would love to know, and for you to share with me over at the Made for More Instagram page or maybe over at my personal Instagram at Tal. I really have been loving bringing you guys these topics and conversations that have felt really needed and are really full of value and things I truly believe we're all walking through right now. So there's so much more to come with so many powerful voices and stories to share. So make sure you dial in each week for the goodness that is on its way. Now, speaking of powerful voices, I am honored to have this beautiful human and man on the show today. When I think about the Made for More podcast, I think about the values of integrity and heart and people who truly raise the collective with how they live their life, with how they love, how they serve. And today is that day. So I want to introduce to you guys the wonderful, amazing Ryan Kalish. Now, before I jump it over to him, I want to share with you guys that Ryan was a former Major League Baseball player, having played for the iconic Boston Red Sox and the Chicago Cubs. But beyond those stadium lights and accolades, guys, his real story begins after the game. Now, after Ryan was retired from professional sport, he faced a deep and raw season of depression, and one that ultimately led him into a spiritual awakening and a profound connection to Yeshua. Now, that inner transformation changed everything for Ryan. In these past few months, he's been traveling the globe from Africa to the Middle East, pouring his heart into serving the sick and the hungry and the oppressed. This man's story is one of resilience, redemption, and radical purpose. And I am inspired by this man on the daily. And what I love most is that he's a dad and he's a husband and someone that I have the honor to call a dear, dear friend. So I want you guys to welcome Ryan to the MFM show. Ryan, welcome.
Oh, what's up? That was amazing, that intro. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to dive right into it because this is really about you and your story and your space to share. You are doing, as I said, incredible things in the world, things that are being so godly led, which I know you're going to dive into. But I think what's really important, Ryan, to talk about is where it all started for you. And that this wasn't just something that you woke up doing and that your whole life has been like this, right? So I want you guys to really hear Ryan's story, right? Share with everyone where it all started for you. Take everyone back to your life, your story.
Well, if I'm going all the way back, I'm going to take you to an 8-year-old boy who went to visit Washington, D.C. And when I was there, my mom told me I refused to hold her hand. And she was like, "What's going on?" And I asked her, like, why are there people sleeping on the streets and there's these massive, really nice buildings? And so that was kind of like the start of it. All right. And then now let's fast forward till I first started my professional baseball career when I met my best friend, Lars Anderson, and essentially his father, who was a Vietnam vet. So he came back from this war and was deeply mistreated. As if you know about this story, like nobody really appreciated them. So he kind of woke me up to, let's quote unquote, conspiracy theories or like the inverse way of thinking. And he always told me, right at that age, he said, if you want to be close to God or Jesus or Yeshua, when you see somebody on the street really struggling, give them a few bucks. That's how you'll be close to God. So I did that for a really long time. I remember walking the streets during this baseball career where I had everything. And whenever I'd see I mean, of course, the homeless really got to me, but I could feel like their pain deeply, or just somebody who was sad walking down the street. Like, it was almost like my soul took me into theirs and I could really feel what they were going through. But obviously, that was kind of just like little glimpses during this, like, really, interesting baseball career that led me to the top of the game. And then 14 surgeries later, and a lot of fights and willpower through physical pain and mental anguish, I had to retire. Like, physically, my body just wouldn't let me do it anymore. I mean, I definitely showed extreme resilience. And then after baseball, during a really tough time mentally, I decided to become a Pilates teacher, which gave me like a new life. Now, at this time, I was also experimenting with psychedelic drugs a lot, right? I'm just an honest guy, so you're going to get the truth from me. And I started to build myself out of this. Okay, like, you can be more than a baseball player. You're a Pilates teacher now. But then, like, with the psychedelics, I started to kind of really feel like something powerful. And it kind of came to this moment where I probably should have been a bit more responsible with what I was doing, but I had this moment where I actually felt like Jesus, like, for real. Like, it overtook my soul. And it was very difficult to express it. I knew I wanted to help the world, but I was saying this out loud to people, like, hey, I feel like Jesus, like, I feel like I'm him. And essentially what happened was, it was love, but I was tricked into a mental institution against my own will and knowledge. And it sent me spiraling into this, I don't know what's real or fake anymore. It was very traumatic because in these sort of mental institutions, they're checking on you for like suicide all the time. And I was like, yeah, but I just want to help, I just want to help the world. And so it was a very long 6 years, between that was 31 and now I'm 37, ups and downs, met my wife, had my daughter, and this feeling and connection to Jesus or Yeshua came back to me about five months ago. And it was much more grounded this time. Like, I mean, again, let's just clarify. Yeshua was Jesus's name, and then his name got changed. But I think what happened to him was, in a time of separation and the top 1% claiming all the riches, leaving the bottom people with nothing, he wanted to make that change. And I think I received that message, and I just didn't know how to actualize it into reality. And so now it's, of course, I'm Ryan. I'm not Jesus or Yeshua, but I'm allowed to try and walk like him. So I am. And because it's so deeply ingrained in my cells, I'm here for it. I want to show people, like, the true nature of what I feel like that man was. And again, I'm allowed to, no one can take that from me. So that's like the short summary of the entire experience. There's a lot more drama in the interwoven in there, but that's kind of neither here nor there. It's about, what am I doing right now? What am I doing with my life today? So
So beautiful, right? I mean, there's so much that you shared in that, and I just want to unpack for a moment, because as you were talking, it was like light bulb for me, and I know you can elaborate on this, but I just want you, so let's unpack everything you shared just briefly. The part of leaving your professional career and leaving kind of that world, right? And within the quote unquote the matrix of that world and sport especially. Can you just walk everyone through kind of that stepping away and what you went through, obviously before moving to Bali and then having your spiritual awakening and having to go through the highs and lows. Can you walk everyone through for maybe where they are their journey right now? Maybe they are in sport, or maybe they are in some sort of career and they're, having that kind of walk away moment like you did.
I think if like if you're walking away and you're feeling depressed or sad or even worse, suicidal, it's normal. It's a part of the process. You're having a death. Your identity death is happening. So for me, in retrospect, it's like, oh, it was really a normal thing. Like I had a schedule, I had people checking on me every day. And then all of a sudden, I'm just out in the world with no one to check, no one that really cares besides my family. And it's like also a nervous system recalibration. You're like, so wherever you are in that, that's like first step. Like if you're feeling lost, it's like completely okay. Like take a breath. The Those sort of moments are what help shape us going forward. Like we need to see the darkness, in my opinion, to truly awaken to whatever is your next thing. So that was mine. And then next thing is like, don't necessarily listen to the voices in your head that say, oh, what am I going to do? I can't do anything. Like when you hear that, you have to be a fighter. You have to be a mental, spiritual warrior and try things, step outside of your comfort zone. Like for me, teaching Pilates was so good for me because for first, yeah, it was like I had to voice this thing. Actually, it's a very feminine industry. So I was around all these women and it was like so inspiring to see how amazing they were at this teaching. And they had seemingly no fear. So you gotta kind of like, even if they did have fear, you could see these ladies just pushing through. And it was so inspiring because, it's like it's tough to be on the stage and voice an opinion, and it's yeah, so that would be my first takeaway from the initial jump.
Like, it's hard for me to not listen to your story and like my entire soul is like, you're such a permission slip. And I think it's really important on the podcast to share this today of like, you really can be from one end to another and it all be you ultimately. Which is like enters this point of obviously after baseball, you moved to Bali, you kind of journeyed with your Pilates. And obviously my partner and I, Joshi and I met you in this time. And we would always just talk behind closed doors and say, Rye is just such a permission slip for like being able to play baseball, but then he's doing Pilates, but then he's in this and in that. And I think to most of the world, that can be so like misunderstood. But what I love about you, Rye, is that you can show you can be one being, one person and dabble in these areas and actually do them freaking well, like do them really well. Right? So thank you for being a permission slip of just showing people that you can do it all, right? Per se. I want to take the audience to this piece of just Bali and your timeline in Bali for a little bit because I don't want to negate it. I know it was special for you. I know it's definitely been special for me. And we obviously met, we're dear friends, and what that looked like for you, because that was the time where you became a Pilates instructor, you kind of journeyed with psychedelics, and then this kind of like dark night of the world telling you who you needed to be and how you needed to be. And you just didn't hold that very well. So I want you to unpack that a little bit and how you got on the other side, Rye, and maybe speak into the power of listening to yourself, then looking outside of yourself, and really knowing that you don't need other people's permission or opinions to, know why you're here and what you're here to create.
Let's talk about the beginning of Bali. That was so my personal spiritual awakening. Again, it's Yeshua, Jesus, Christ consciousness, whatever you want. And that was my second time having the Christ consciousness in the beginning of Bali. And it was so rooted in ego and narcissism that I couldn't take in other people's opinions and hear it. And in fact, what happened was it was very dangerous, actually. And I ended up blowing $300,000 in 1 month, um, giving it away, giving gifts, starting businesses with people who a few of them may have scammed me, but more so I was scamming myself. Yeah, it was very dark. It was very dark. And in fact, it was almost very supernatural because at the end of this Christ consciousness awakening, I had an ayahuasca purge without anything, no substance. It was like God or the mystery said, you know what, you're not treating this the way that you're meant to treat this. So right now I have to take it from you. And I got sick for 4 hours on the last day of this really nice party in the Mandala house where I was living. It was our last day of renting that house. And I was puking and pooping for 4 hours with nothing. And the next day, all this connection to Yeshua and Jesus was gone. And I was forced. Yeah, I mean, it was actually all right. I was in Bali, but it was just like, okay, you're going to go into this more calm reality. We're going to take time with you. And that was when I ended up meeting my wife. I started a business in Indonesia with real estate, and obviously had my beautiful baby daughter. This is like a 4 year period where I again had to rebuild myself because I was egotistical and narcissistic. And I find like this is a part of the awakening process. And if more like basically what I realize is there's a level of narcissism and ego that is okay. You can feel like, so the definition of narcissism is you feel like you have a very important story, but you lack empathy. And so I lacked empathy in that moment now for other people and what they were going through. And then ego was like, okay, yeah, I feel really cool, but do I have the recognition of where I came from? And I was lacking the balance. And this is huge in spiritual awakening, in my opinion. If I could have, like, even today, I sometimes hear other people's opinions and it triggers that feeling inside of me, but I don't express it anymore. I transmute it internally. And that's where I've led to, like, where I've gone to now. And it's just so much better because at the end of the day, we're all, I mean, we want to love each other. We want people to raise in awareness and consciousness. And if I'm constantly judging people and yelling at them all the time, it doesn't really work super well. So it's a work in progress still. It's like the other thing I'll mention about baseball was we always had this phrase was like, the moment you think you have it figured out is the moment the game is going to smack you and you're going to get put down. And this is the same in life. I feel like, you know, as wise as I feel like I'm becoming, the more I know, the less I know is the attitude I want to keep because I don't want to ever let the flow stop of wisdom.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
where I'm at today for
Yeah.
sure.
I so I I so resonate with that of just like understanding that we're all almost achieving or acting as if we're trying to reach a certain goal or destination, but the whole point of life is that it never ends. And especially when you're in this service space journey like you're on right now. And it's wild hearing you talk like this because I've obviously been your friend during this time. And this is what I love about you, Ryan. You're just like, you're here to keep it real, to keep it honest. And I think so many people in what you just shared just then, um, this might be bold for me to say on my own podcast, but I do believe that ego, that even that narcissism can really live in a lot of us today and the showing and the validation with how we live, even in entrepreneurship, I feel, right? So to hear you go, guys, if you aren't getting value from Ryan right now, then you need to unplug the ears, because, you are sharing so much wisdom, my love. And I really want you guys to hear this. I don't take lightly who I bring on the show. And what I love about Ryan is that I truly believe this is the version you are today is a version that we are all aspiring to become and reach, and not from a place of ego, but from a place of like really returning home to yourself and acting from this place of consciousness. I feel that you were put on this earth for big things. And I want to go back to the beginning now, bring it all the way full circle, when you shared you had this moment and you felt like Jesus, you felt like Yeshua, all right? And I think this is beautiful to talk about, because in my belief, I believe we are all one consciousness, right? Like we are the image of him in our own right. And yet we've been told that that's not possible, or my belief, we're looking outside of ourselves and kind of praising this being instead of actually, really connecting with the fact that we have and hold that within ourselves. So I want you to share with the viewers your awakening with Jesus, with Yeshua, and where you are today and how you navigate every day as a papa, as a dad, as a husband, as a leader, as a humanitarian, as just a being, my love, with his spirit, with his energy. I really want everyone to hear that from you.
Yeah, so I think I've heard a few people say that Jesus was sinless, and I think that that is a big lie. I think that living the human experience is full of emotional rides up and down, left and right. And I mean, one of the final moments of Jesus's life was being in a temple and being upset with the way the religious and political leaders were treating the temple or animals. It's kind of still a little bit unknown, but he flipped a table with money on it, because I think he was very sad about how they were being treated. So I I feel like his story is a bit misinterpreted. I think, Jesus was out on the streets with God. He was out with the poor. He was trying to show people that we don't need to live this way. And he was a disruptor. He was a rebel. He wasn't some, ha, he was like, yeah, sure. Like there's the missing years. They say he went over to like Tibet. I think he studied some things, but when he came, but could you imagine, the guy was a man of action. All right. You don't go from Egypt or the Middle East to Tibet in those day and age if you're not a radical action man. And so when he came back with all this knowledge of oneness, like you say, he wanted to show people. And on some days, he may have been, yeah, like in his element when he was feeling heard. But then when he saw something maybe that didn't resonate with him, he had some tantrums. He was a guy. He wanted us to wake up to the love in action. He never said, like I've broken down the books, the Bible. There's nothing in there that says, come to this church, give us the money and go do your sins. He never said, I'm dying for your sins. That's people who said his story 20 years later. So I do feel very connected to some feeling of anger in the story, because I think it was, but I take for the most part now online, you'll see, like I do say out some really challenging against the mainstream narrative viewpoints. And then you'll see the next point. I'm transmuting that with action, real action. I'm not just talking, I'm walking. And so the walking part is, it's everywhere, right? So it's like if you are viewing this and you're like hearing this, it's like I'm not saying you don't, if you like the church, don't stop going to church, but like I would say to you, if you're going to church and you're spending that 1 hour per week doing that, take another hour and go find someone who's suffering because they're right outside your doorstep. They're not far away. Go spend time with them. Now, I'm putting some of it on camera. And, Yeshua, I would say he wanted to be seen. He was starting a movement. So, like, there's nothing wrong with putting some of it on camera, but also, like, what you see me putting on camera is about 20% of what I'm doing on a day, like when I am in service. Right. There is a balance here. Like, and as you mentioned, I'm a father and a husband. So I'm spending 50% of my month out in Africa or anywhere in service, and then the other 50% is in service to my family. Now, this balance is hard. The contrast is hard when I go out and see children who eat every 3, 4 days, and then I come home and I see my daughter having 3 or 4 meals, and it's a balance. It's an evolution. Like I'm still, I'm 4 months into that service. I mean, I am 15 years into giving money to people randomly, but it's like I know this is an evolution, and it's never ending. So like, it's again, I just think like you got to get, if you are connected to Christ consciousness, which is like the spiritual side of it, or if you're in the church, the one truth is Yeshua was out serving the oppressed and the poor. So it doesn't matter where you are in it. If you want to really connect to him, go do it a little bit. You don't have to do it like, I feel like a part of my journey is to be extreme to show you don't have to go as extreme as me. There's like, you could walk out your house in America, go down the block road in Austin, and it's right in front of your eyes. It's not far.
And I feel everything that you shared is very much where, at least now more than ever, it's kind of like we're missing the point, because it really, in my opinion, no matter what you're doing in whatever way it is, it's the embodiment of what he resembled, right? It wasn't that he was just a man we read about in a book, or this one consciousness that we believe. At the end of the day, he was, as you said, in the action of life. He was really moving the needle forward of what we needed as a collective. And that, the way that you explained it for me personally, I am, a woman who grew up as a young girl in the Catholic Church, and somewhere, I lost my way with that. And I think that this is a whole nother 3-hour conversation, but many of us either carry shame or guilt around that, and we'll find our way back to the church per se, or we don't and we lose our way entirely. But what I would love to see, and at least in my own experience, and you're just living and breathing this, Ryan, but it's come back to, what does it mean to you, and how does it feel in the embodiment to you, and how can then you go be of service in the way that he was. And I think if everyone understood that just a little bit more, we would have a world of deep service right now, because we need it. Which brings me to where you're at now. So guys, I want to paint you a picture of this. You are obviously a Western man, right? You hold and have a beautiful family. I was just telling you before we pressed play on this episode how much love and respect I have for your wife, because for you to be able to do what you're doing really requires the anchor of allowing you to be in this work. And so, here's this one life you're living, and you're kind of coming back to your beautiful baby girl and your wife, and then you're on the duality, on the other side of the world, in the thick and the throes of deep service, and seeing children that have gone days not eating, seeing, men, struggling to walk, struggling to breathe. And yet something that I've noticed watching the moments that you've shared, which, guys, these are moments, because you really are in the work, right? It's what people don't see every day, all day. But what I noticed, Ryan, is this joy and this happiness and this level of just like peaceful contentment that some of these people hold, that we struggle as a Western society to have. And I want you, can you talk about that a little bit? Not saying that at the core these people are happy by any means, but you talk to them the way I've seen in your content. You share these conversations and they just ooze a smile. They hold a level of joy when they have no right or reason to. And yet And yet we're over here complaining about third world problems. So can you talk about this a little bit for me?
Yeah, first of all, I want to share a quick thing about my wife. At first I was a little upset because I wanted her to do this with me. And I got mad at her. And then I realized just by her being okay with me leaving for half the month,
Yeah.
she's doing it with me.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I would get mad and we would fight about it. And it's like, and then I had to have this realization, like, dude, wake up. She's there with you by letting you do it, by taking care of your daughter. Shut up. Wake up, man. And so that was a big one. And even last night, I still wish, at some point we'll get to do that. And I talk about it, but it's just different now. Whew. So if you have, yeah, I mean, it's just like I had to say that for her. And then when I'm out there, I remember specifically I was in Africa the first time. I went to this orphanage. The kids hadn't eaten in 4 days. And when I showed up for the first 2 hours, while we were preparing them the food that I brought in the car, it was like had this, they had so much joy and spirit and love. 4 days, no food. Kids were singing and dancing and playing with nothing in their stomachs. And I keep saying this, the West, like, especially for me, I'm from America. America has so much to learn from Africa, and Africa has so much to learn from America. And if we can bridge this together, and this isn't just there, it's like everywhere. It's like we all have so much to learn from each other. And we get caught up in these borders and boundaries and this and that and religious. It's just like, come on, let's just, so like the more I do that, and the more I step into that world, just the clearer it becomes. Like, even for me, transformationally, after I left that orphanage, we were on the drive home and there was a car accident. We got stuck on the highway the entire night in the middle of Africa with no hotel in sight. We slept in the car. And the first 20 minutes, I had a bit of anxiety. And then I thought to myself, well, you're with two friends, you have a comfortable seat, you have snacks, you have water, everything is fine. And I just came to this calm. And that's like the transformation. That's the transformation that I'm seeing in myself that I want to give to the rest of the world, because we don't need to do it like this. It's a choice. It's like anything. It's like an alcoholic figuring out it's enough. It's here. We can change this. So there's just so much transformation happening on every moment of every trip that you can't, like, it's hard to learn in a classroom, in a university, anywhere else. It's like traveling and serving, you will find some things that are just far beyond any book or any building. So yeah, I just cried.
Firstly, I love you. And wow, thank you for just, bearing it all. And huge shout out. We're going back to the wifey. Huge shout out, wifey. She's the best. And also thank you for sharing that, because it really is it, but that was the truth and is the truth for you in those moments. Of course, it's like you want to be in it and be in the work with your partner, right? But realizing that for you to even be doing what you're doing right now is like her really holding the fort and being the anchor. I mean, I really want you to continue to close us out, because we are really in the presence of your work right now. And I really want you to tell everyone, like, for people to really see and feel the work that you're doing, Ryan, Can you give us just kind of a couple of different orphanages and places just this year alone that you have visited? And, what has been like the biggest shift for them, seeing this beautiful, loving, service-based, incredible Caucasian man rocking up to their villages, right? What has been the shift for you, just shared for you, but also what have you felt like the shift has been for them? What do you feel like in the work you're doing, you've been able to gift them? And ultimately, how can we do more of this work, Ryan? Like, huge call out to people like myself that feel so called forward by the work you're doing. And I know so many that are going to listen to this episode. Like, let's give a shout out, call the people forward.
It's funny that you mentioned names. I don't even remember some of the names, but I can specifically talk about in Africa. Again, going back to this one in the town called Bulgari. It's called the ASOC Foundation. Okay, it's coming back to me. And it's about these. I think especially right now in Africa, people feel really unseen. So when you show them that they're seen by somebody from the West, by a white person, because it's like I don't personally, I'm done seeing like skin colors or any of that. It's just completely ridiculous to like, well, it's there, it's true, but they want to feel seen and they love to feel seen. And that's like, even coming back to people in general, even in the West, we want to be seen, right? It's like we want to be seen by our governments. We want to be taken care of. We want to be lifted up. And that's like when you go there, um, and you see them, it's almost like God is seeing you. That's what I put a post up. I said, I found God in Africa. And I've been pretty anti God in my life. Like I was an atheist at one point. Um, but the more that I serve, the more I feel the mystery of God. Whatever this entity is, the more that I see others, the more the mystery sees me. And the more synchronicities come into my life. Like there are people showing up in my life that is just like, it's like mind blowing. Like you go to the sauna and you meet this person to help you with this business, and you're like, that is strange because I never even come to the sauna at this time. And then
Yeah.
bang, it's like, okay, so like there is something to be said. And I do feel like, um, we are disconnected from God going through third parties like the church or anywhere. Like, again, if you like the church, I'm not saying stop, but I feel like you'll also see God if you go out and serve. Um, so yeah, that's what I can say about that. And then another one was a quick story, like going through in Kampala, Uganda. I think it's like the Forgotten Children Foundation. And I walked around their neighborhood in a pretty sketchy place for someone like me to be. And I was holding hands surrounded by children. And the more that we can connect to our childlike essence and serve children, the the walls crumble down and the people see you. And like there were a few looks that I got. And then as we're walking, this person that all like maybe if I'm there alone might be like, give me something, or what are you doing in my neighborhood? And they saw me serving and they came and shook my hand.
Wow.
And you're just like, wow, okay, so the more that we just show up with love and we serve, we will break down these barriers between borders, race, religions. It's all possible. We gotta do it.
Yeah. I think the key to what I am really feeling and hearing, there really is magic in service. There really is. And, for full transparency, guys, you may not be right now in a time of your life to be able to be like Ryan, although it was a choice, Ryan, you could have had every reason to not do it, right? But you may be thinking like, okay, but I can't just like up and root and go to Africa or do all the things. But I truly do believe that service comes in all forms. Even for myself, I believe, when I'm in service to the women in the ways I'm doing right now, it feels fulfilling, and it feels like when we are doing something outside of ourselves, we are doing good work. So I want you to close this out really quickly, and I want you to leave the audience with anything that you haven't shared today that you feel called to share, that you want to say, that you want to speak into. And then before I let you go, I'm going to ask you 3 questions, because we always end MFM with 3 questions. I'm going to do 3 questions, and then I want you to tell everyone where they can find you and the work that you're doing, and how they can, really be enrolled by your vision, because you are living and breathing a vision for humanity right now, Ryan. And it is truly an honor to watch and hopefully soon walk alongside of you. I'm really proud of you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I guess first in a vulnerable share, like right now, I'm not necessarily winning money with what I'm doing. I'm trusting in the universe that obviously as a former sportsman, that this message can grow in like public speaking engagements, and like I'm manifesting with that action. So I really love that, that's kind of what I'm doing. And I do have the support from my wife, and I do believe that this is going to turn into something. So if you feel like, yeah, number one, you don't have to uproot to go to Africa to do service. Number two, if you don't have money to spend your presence, spend your time serving someone. And it doesn't have to be the poorest person on the block. It could just be a friend, but also reach out, volunteer. There are groups that sponsor things in the world, and you can get involved with a little bit of action. So, yeah, just like the more that we can, find that a little bit of service doesn't have to be as extreme as me. Um, we can change the world. So if you want to find me, I would say my Instagram is the best place. I am Ryan Kalish, is where you can find me. And yeah, like keep joking around with people as an athlete. It's like I just got to the stadium. I'm only in the locker room warming up. Just wait. I'm not even on the field yet for the game.
That is so good. And I love that it's not even this time around in reference to sport.
I have an intensity about me that athletics gave me, and it's nice. I like
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, like I've said it a million times now, but you really are a permission slip for being able to do all the things, but also what a colorful background you've had, man. Like, wow, and a lot of people would listen to your story and say that he's done all of that in one lifetime. And it's beautiful to be reminded that you can take that part of your life and that part of your life and bring it into this part of your life. And that's exactly what you've done. So it has been an honor to have you on the show. I know that you are going places and sharing stories and deeply serving, and not from a place of vanity, from a deep place of what humanity needs right now. And I'm excited to have you back on when, you've transmuted and impacted even more people than you are right now. So as we close out, I'm going to ask you three fun questions, just because you know me, you know my energy. We'll bring it back. Ryan, what's your favorite food?
my favorite food.
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite food. I love sushi when I'm
You know what's
splurging.
crazy about that?
Huh?
Josh said the same thing.
Nice.
Sushi boys. Okay, question 2. If you could tell your younger self something right now, what would it be?
I wish I could have been my own best friend sooner.
It's good. It's
Yeah,
good.
that's it.
Question 3, And I meant what I said early in the show when I was writing out these questions for all the guests on MFN. You actually inspired this question because I was like, well, when I asked Ryan, he's already doing it. But the question is, if time and money were no issue, what would you be doing? So Ryan, share for everyone what you would be doing if time and money. And hear this, guys. I love what Ryan said before. And I hope you don't mind me saying this, Ryan, but it's not that time or money is not currently an issue in your life, right? You're making do with what you have, but you're doing it anyway. And I think that's a really important message. So if time and money were no issue, what would you be doing?
I would do what my soul is asking me to do the most, whatever that thing is. And I would do it in trust that there is a greater force in the mystery of God that's watching.
Amen. Well, I love you. There's a lot of love here. There's a lot of love from you to the world. I'm sure you guys have felt this man's energy. You've felt his transmission. You are probably leaving this episode asking yourself, what is just one little thing that I could do in service today? Because I know I definitely am. So thank you. I love you. Thank you for being here. I will drop in all of the show notes where you can find Ryan, see the work he's doing in the world, stay enrolled with this beautiful man in his vision and everything he's doing. And I just really want to say, you guys, the whole point of why I started this show and this podcast was to really get us out of our comfort zones, right? No matter where you are, in what place of the world and what you're currently doing, that we all have the opportunity to just get a little bit out of our own way today, just in the smallest ways. It doesn't have to be grandiose ways, but in the smallest of ways. I hope that you can feel not only inspired by Ryan's story, but now turn that back to you, right? Like how you can now go out in the world, because you are no different. I am no different. And I know that I will be leaving this episode, definitely doing that just a little bit more. So until next time, we want to say again, thank you, Ryan, for being on. I love you. And just remember, you guys, always that you are made for more. I'm your host, Tal, and I'll see you on the next episode. Love you guys.